Welcome to the Fifth Quarter Sportscast. I'm Jared Judy. I'm here as usual with my buddy Todd Corley. And we're going to break down some Week 16 NFL action. And, we got a couple things to get through. But we'll start off with how's the holidays, Christmas, and family, kids? How was all that stuff?
Terrible. It was listen, in-laws, family dread.
I could sympathize. And we'll leave it at that. Let's dive into the football.
That's right. Well, let Jared chew on his microphone for dessert.
Yeah. So we put out a poll of the week as usual. Which NFL team got the most crucial Week 16 win? So we got the Jags over the Jets, Cowboys over the Eagles, Packers over the Dolphins, or the Chargers over the Colts. Now, granted, the Cowboys, they already had the playoff spot locked up, but obviously that depends on seeding if they win or lose, and that obviously impacts the Eagles being the number one seed with Minshew playing and them losing. But the Jags had to win to keep their playoffs alive, their hopes alive. Packers have to win out to even remotely be take care of business on their end. And they did, the Chargers beat the Colts, then they lock up playoffs. So right now it's looking 20-20-20 across the board for everybody except the Cowboys over the Eagles. They got 40%. What did you think? What was your take on those if you had to choose?
Cowboys over the Eagles, because I've seen the Cowboys struggle against lesser opponents. Everybody thinks the Eagles are like, we spent the first, 11, 12 weeks of the season kissing the Eagles' asses. Anytime they lose, an angel gets its wings. That was just nice. Plus, I got some fantasy stocks and some Cowboys. I was actually surprised that one of the choices wasn't another NFC East, NFC North matchup with the Vikings.
I did consider putting that one in there just because obviously the Redskins have to kind of win to keep even with the Giants. And the Vikings obviously winning. If they keep winning, they could easily flip-flop with the Eagles if the Eagles keep losing. So I had initially thought about putting that one out there, but I guess the reason I didn't was because Minnesota already had that locked up as far as mostly, the playoff. Now it's just a matter of seeding. But I thought it was kind of interesting that the Eagles could potentially lose that number one seed with Minshew out. If they lose, they lose out, they could lose that number one seed. And then obviously I thought it was interesting that the Packers have to win out just to even take care of work on their end, and then they got to hope for everybody to lose. And then the Chargers, they had to beat the Colts to even get in. And the Jags, with that win, they leapfrogged over Tennessee. So I initially put the Vikings in there, but then I swapped them out. But
I'm peeling back some layers here. I'm going to slip into my Freud shoes for just a second. I know what you did. I know why you did it. And I'm here. I'll be your shoulder to cry on. Because I know that you putting the Jaguars and Jets wasn't
Here we go.
Jaguars as it was more of a testament to your undying love for Zach Wilson. I know you had to get one last hurrah in there. I know you're trying not to blame the loss on Zach Wilson. He did play in this one. It'll be the last time he ever wears a Jets uniform. I'm here for you as a friend.
All right. Well, we'll put it this way. That's not who I went with. I voted for the Chargers over the Colts simply because they had to win that to get into the playoffs, and they couldn't have done it against a weaker opponent. But this Chargers team is so inconsistent, so I'm curious to see what they're finally going to do in the playoffs once they get in. I don't know who they're going to face at this point because it depends on how it shakes out, but I voted for them. I like the Chargers. Austin Eckler's a monster. Herbert's a dude. Keenan Allen still has life. Mike Williams is a dude. Like I really want to see what this team can do down the stretch. So with that being said, I went with the Chargers.
Yeah, cheers it up, baby. I'm over here just stirring Metamucil.
It's really the same. It's the same thing, really.
Yeah, that's what I'm drinking.
Mine's in a can minus the Metamucil.
Mine took about 45 minutes of stirring to get that shit to. Oh my god! This is what happens. This is the post-holiday letdown with kids. You gotta. I don't know what week are we in. We're going in week 17.
Correct.
We've had 15 of these or 16 of these. This is 16.
Yeah.
Episodes.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the second.
15. Yeah.
Second or third dry one. I mean, after 13, 14. Don't ask me to do math, drunk or sober. After we'll say 14 bachelor parties.
Hey, you know bachelor
what? Parties. Homeboy here needed a detox.
Here at the 360. Or the fifth quarter sportscast here at the fifth quarter sportscast.
We're changing the goddamn name to the 360.
Here at the fifth quarter, we like to take a 360 view on things.
That's right. Some would say I did a 360 from where I was last week.
Oh man, let's jump in. So now that we mentioned Mike White and Zach Wilson and all those phenomenal quarterbacks, I'm going to be honest, I had no clue who in the hell was playing for the Jets this week. When I was watching that and looking at the name, I'm like, I don't know who this is. I literally have no clue.
It wasn't. Options were limited.
Yeah. But regardless, the Jags get the much-needed win over the Jets, and that puts them at the top of the NFC or the AFC South, ahead of the Titans. And God, I don't know what the heck happened to the Titans. They've completely fell off. I don't know what the hell's going on with Tennessee though. Like, are they just done? Are they done for the year? Like, they got beat by Houston. I didn't realize Houston was still playing. Like,
Houston's been in Houston.
They almost beat. They had a chance to knock off Dallas a couple weeks ago or last week, whatever it was.
I'll tell you what, man, they're the best 2.5 win team I ever did see.
They're playing the spoiler role. That's what they're doing right now. Man. They're playing the spoiler. But I mean, you look at Jacksonville, and Jacksonville's they're starting to come on just at the right time. I feel like Trevor Lawrence is starting to play hot, continuing that streak. But that was an ugly game anyway with the Jets. The Jets are just such a dumpster right now. They fell right back to the mean where they've been, for the better part of a few decades now. But I don't know what happened. Like, Derrick Henry just looks irrelevant. Tannehill obviously being out doesn't help. Derrick
Henry had some pretty damn good runs in that game.
Yeah, but it didn't help him any.
Well, no, because you got Malik Willis back there trying to be a quarterback. Jesus.
Yeah, but Tannehill didn't do much. I mean, he's been back there for the whole season, and they've kind of regressed. I mean, granted, I know he's been hurt, but they have no receivers. I mean, I thought their defense was supposed to be pretty good, but I learned that a few weeks ago that that's not the case. Like, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with them. And the fact that Jacksonville just jumped over them, and they had the Urban Meyer experience last year, that's a hell of a turnaround in a short time.
I love it. I'm still happy that Tennessee ended up shit canning their GM and then let their only wide receiver leave town.
To come back and beat their ass.
Burn them. That was poetic justice right there. That was like one of my top 5 highlights of the season. AJ Brown torching them.
It really couldn't get any more appropriate, really, when you think about it. It's great. A perfect end. But we'll move to the next game here, and we kind of touched on this in the cheers of the week. Dallas gets the W, but they didn't walk, right into that W. They definitely had a game, and I mean, obviously, it wasn't Jalen Hurts playing; it was Gardner Minshew. The Minshew mania resurfaced again. I kind of initially expected Philly to put up a tough fight, but then when they said Minshew was going to start, I figured the spread would be a little bit more even. And I thought maybe the Eagles could still potentially pull it off, but Miles Sanders forgot how to hold on to a ball, so that didn't help. But, Minshew, I mean, he almost knocked off the Cowboys. I mean, it was only it was a 6-point game, I think, was the final. It was like 40-34 or something.
Yep.
So I mean, that's still pretty impressive with a backup who's not. Let's be honest, he's not a Jalen Hurts. He doesn't have the athletic ability on the ground like Jalen Hurts, and to only lose by 6, I mean, that's not a far fall. So I was impressed.
Looked like he had some pretty good chemistry with Devontae Smith.
I would say so. I would say so.
He looked really good. He didn't look any bigger than he was when he was at Alabama, but he was still effective, just like it was at Alabama. God, is he tiny? Him scrawny.
Well, they had he had what? Let me pull it up real quick.
113 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns.
eight receptions. So between Goddard and Brown and Smith, I mean, you had what 17 receptions between your 2 main receivers and your tight end. So I mean, that's what, little over 200 yards, 225 or whatever between the 3. That's a pretty good day. I mean, he went 24 of 40 and 355. So I mean, he definitely was slinging it. That's for sure.
84.9 QB rating. Not bad. That's kind of what Minshew does, though. Comes in off the bench, gets hot. He's like Ryan Fitzpatrick, and
I was going to say he's a very I don't know that he'll ever be. I mean, never say never, I guess, but he's not going to be a full-fledged plug-and-play replacement as far as no drop-off, but he's a very serviceable backup. I don't know that he's a starter long-term, but he can get you by.
Yeah,
but
he's like Baker Mayfield, but like
well, I don't
consistent.
think. There you go. I was going to say I don't think he's going to like that slander.
What did Gardner Minshew do to you?
Why are you slinging arrows?
This is my therapy session now. This is
Yeah.
my cry for help.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, overall, I was pretty impressed. I think he's got a pretty reliable cast around him to kind of help out. So
Miles Sanders did not have a good day.
No, especially not when coming off the last few performances where he had breakout games, and then he kind of better phrase, he shit the bed. Like he kind of went back to what everybody had thought he was going to be, coming into this season. I don't know. I don't know what to think of him, because I wouldn't think a quarterback change would be that much of an impact. But man, he was struggling. He was struggling a lot. Yeah. But we'll move on to the aforementioned Minnesota game here with the Giants. Obviously, the Vikings get the win and knock off the Giants 27-24. But the bigger point here, I guess, as far as headlines, for those of you that don't watch football, or for those of you that's never heard of him, this guy, what's his name? Justin Jefferson is a freaking dude. Like if it wasn't evident before, he can play. That guy can play ball. Like, he's pretty good. But he broke both, I think, didn't he? Chris Carter and Randy Moss's records for most receptions and yards in a season.
He's a bad dude, man.
I mean, when you put your name in with those ranks, I mean, that's some pretty good stock. As much as I hate to admit it, being a Packers fan, but that's some pretty good company to be in. But man, he's just unreal. Like, I don't know of anybody else out there as far as receiver wise in the league who's as consistent and prolific as him. Like, he's catching things all over the place. No matter what you're throwing up, he's pulling down. He reminds me of Devontae from a few years ago. Like, that's kind of how consistent he is. Everyone knows he's getting the ball, and there's nothing they can do about it. Like, it's just unreal.
Especially with Kirk Cousins throwing to you. Because he's not exactly Josh Allen.
Well, no, and that's the thing that kind of makes me laugh. It's kind of like the Odell Beckham and Eli Manning. Odell Beckham looked Granted, Odell Beckham has talent. Like, he's a very good player. But Eli made him look like even more of a freak because Eli kept hitting everything other than the receiver in the chest. So Odell Beckham was able to show off his athletic ability catching things up over his head because that's where Eli was putting him.
Sometimes it's better. Sometimes it's better to have that fucking erratic quarterback that just throws. You don't know where it's going to go. Jefferson doesn't know either. Exactly,
and it reminds me of that, a rendition of that per se. But yeah, I mean the Vikings. I don't know what to think of them. They're very bipolar, in my opinion. Like, when they're on, they're on. Like, you get blown out by Dallas, and Dallas has its flaws, but then you come back and you get smacked around by Indianapolis, who might be the most JV warranted team in the NFL this year. They are just complete trash, and you get throttled by them in the first half. And then you come out and you're like, oh, guys, hey, the game started, and you put up 39 points in a half. Like, I don't even know what to think of this team. They're so inconsistent. I feel like very seldom do they put 4 quarters together of solid football. Now, granted, that could be said for a lot of teams, but I'm like, I don't know what to think of them. Like, they're not the Eagles where they just put the pedal down and throttle people. They're not the Bills. They're not the Chiefs.
Well, I don't know. They're just when it comes to in the playoffs, because that coming from behind late in the game might work in the regular season against the little sisters of the poor. But
you can pull that. You can pull that shit off against, Indianapolis, Houston, maybe Atlanta. I don't think you're going to pull that shit off against. You're not going to pull that shit off against Dallas. You're probably not going to be able to get back in the game if Jalen Hurts is playing against Philly. Like,
no,
I don't know.
It's too good.
It'll be interesting, but I just don't know what to think of them. Like, they're very inconsistent. Like, going probably midway through the season, they were just steamrolling people, and then all of a sudden they hit this lull where it's like, what? I still don't know at this point going into week 17 who they really are. Like, they're inconsistent. Some weeks they are on, and other weeks it's like, what happened? So the verdict is still out for me. I don't know. But regardless, Justin Jefferson doesn't hurt having him on your team. Like, that's the talent you need. But I don't know. What's your thoughts? I don't feel like Dalvin Cook's really had much of an impact. I mean, he's a solid guy, but I don't feel like they've utilized him near as much as they have in the past. I don't know if they're trying to keep him healthy for the postseason, but I feel like they used to use him a lot more like they did Peterson and just run and run and run. And I don't know if they're kind of opening it up more now since they have Jefferson to take some of that pressure off of him. Yeah, but I don't feel like
Jefferson opens it up. You don't have to rely as much on the run. Plus, getting Hawkinson. Whew.
Oh, that doesn't hurt either.
Minnesota with a tight end he had a ball game this past week.
Well, and I just don't feel like they've kind of run Cook into the ground as much as they used to. I mean, even with Peterson, it was Peterson's getting the ball 45 times a game. You know it. I know it. Try to stop him. Like, that's their game plan. And I felt like for a while that was Dalvin Cook's plan, and he would get injured. So I think they're trying to keep the ball not out of his hands, but trying to kind of almost put him on a pitch count to make sure he gets through into the postseason, because he's had a history of injuries. But God, with Justin Jefferson there, you don't got to run the ball.
No, it's whatever they're doing, it's working, at least for now. You get Greg Joseph taking 61 yarders to win the game. Man.
Yeah, that was impressive. I didn't think it was going to be dead center. I figured it would have been a little bit more left or right when I saw it, and I'm like, oh my God. Like, and when you look at I saw a replay of it from the behind the goalpost. I mean, he probably could have had a lot of things go into that, but he had distance still. He probably could have hit it from 64. I mean, he still had plenty of room.
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah. But we'll see how they pan out in the postseason, because that's when the true colors rise to the top. But we'll.
My prediction is they do a 360 and they'll show everybody
what their true colors are. Yeah,
that's right.
I think their true selves come out, and they'll take a 360 look at themselves going into the postseason. If they can get that first round bye, they'll probably take some time to take a 360 view of the game plan. Moving on, let's talk about some dumpsters. So, Dangerous, he ruined Christmas for all of the state of Colorado. I've never seen such a dumpster. Like, you went from being a very serviceable team in Seattle with him to what the hell happened in Denver. Like, I don't even know where to start. And they were talking about that on ESPN Madison. Like, who's to blame here? Is it Russ for the downfall? Is it Hackett? Is it the GM for bringing in Hackett and paying all the crap load of money to get him in there? Like, I don't even know. But it's interesting how they start cleaning house. Hackett's gone. I think the special teams coordinator was gone. I think maybe the OC's gone. And the GM's still there. Like, the GM's the one that brought all those guys in. So how does he keep his job, but everybody underneath him? All right.
Well,
I don't know.
It's probably the one who's friends with Sean Payton, getting his staff ready to take over there next season. Because
how interesting would it be if Vic Fangio came right back? Because that's Vic Fangio's defense.
Yeah.
If he came back with Payton as a defensive coordinator.
Well, that's the plan. So we'll see.
I thought he would either go to Denver or he might go to LA if McVay calls it a career and goes into broadcasting. I think that maybe him and Sean Payton could swap careers and then he'd go to LA.
No, man. They got number 17 now. They're probably gonna do some sort of mathematical wizardry, like he's like whatever mathematical voodoo.
Are they going to let
Mayfield has played on in the entire world, tricking people into thinking he's over 6 feet? That's he's going to mathematically like reestablish the fact that they could actually make the playoffs now.
Are they going to let Matt Stafford go and free up that contract now since they have the franchise, the face of the franchise? Baker.
I don't even know who Matt Stafford is. I don't know.
I don't think LA does anymore since they have Baker.
Who this Stafford you speak? But yeah, I mean, people. Do you think the Rams are eliminated from playoff contention this year? I say nay.
They got a long hill to climb.
I mean,
I guess
measuring techniques on Earth would put Baker Mayfield somewhere in the 5'4" to 5'6" range. Yet somehow in LA he's 6'2".
With cleats.
Nickelodeon out here lying to kids on Christmas, telling them that Baker Mayfield's 6'2". Nickelodeon lying to kids now on Christmas. Is that how we're going to play it?
Let's be honest. What kind of cleats is he wearing? Is he wearing the Gene Simmons cleats? Because if so, that's where he gets the extras.
The extra 8-inch platforms. That's right. God, I wish he'd had that shit in Cleveland. Whatever he was wearing this past Sunday, I want him to wear those. That's what he should have been. That's what he should have been wearing in Cleveland. God Almighty!
I didn't see the Nickelodeon, but I do know. I remember you text me that, and I was actually sitting at the table with the in-laws. And I was talking to my brother-in-law, and we were talking about the complete collapse by Denver. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're gonna love this text my buddy just sent me." And I was talking about how the Nickelodeon broadcast said he gained a foot, and my brother-in-law was like, "Oh, I know there's some jet lag on the plane flights when you go from time zone to time zone. Do you gain height when you go from time zone to time zone too?"
I couldn't believe I read it. I almost took a picture of it. It said Baker Mayfield in high school, when he was a senior in high school, I can't remember. Whenever he was in high school, it said he was 5'2", and he's since then grown a foot, 1 foot.
He's a late bloomer.
My calculations is 12 inches. There's no goddamn way that man is 6'2". I swear to God, I'm 6'3", and I don't know where he is, but get him out here.
Hey, he's a late bloomer. He's probably still hitting puberty right now. He's just now getting into the prime.
Oh, Lord, I know where he is. Cheesecake Factories. Somewhere he's getting stretched out all right. Tell you that.
Whole different meaning of that.
Yeah, allegedly.
But
oh,
yeah, going back to Denver, I don't know what to think of them. Like
it's absolutely terrible.
I don't really understand how they could get worse. Like that running back committee, that whole backfield is a complete dumpster. And now with, Javonte Williams hurt, that thing is a complete dumpster. The receivers, I mean, they really have Sutton's actually pretty good and Judy's pretty good, but my God, you don't have a quarterback that can get the ball out there. And I try to make it a point to not watch any Denver games because, freaking Russ is so awful to watch. But, we were obviously forced to watch it. So we had it on the background. And I swear to God, every time I glanced up, he was overthrowing Judy by 10 yards and overthrowing him by like 3 to 6 feet above their head or throwing at their ankles. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, I understand when you go to a new team, you're maybe going to throw the ball to the left and maybe the guy cut into the right. Or maybe it was, a stop and go and you were expecting him to run a post, so you overthrew him by a couple yards. I get it. It's a new offense. We're week 16, and he's overthrowing these guys by like 10 yards. Like, this is not – it looks like he's never thrown a ball before. He's never even played catch in the backyard. Like, I just –
thin, mile-high air.
I don't get it. Like, it looks like – to me, he looks like he's struggling as much as like a Gardner Minshew or like an early Jared Goff, like those type of struggles to complete a simple screen pass. Like if he completes a screen pass, all of Denver closes the next day to celebrate. Like I just don't get it. And this is the same guy that went to a Super Bowl. Like it just blows me away. I feel like how many steps Denver took backwards with him at the helm, and then you see them on the sideline, and the team's getting into fights, and the offensive linemen want to take his head off.
Chucked Brett Rippin, like Rip. What the fuck can we do about it, Rip? Rip's over here getting shoved into like the third row.
Like those type of things scream success. That's how you know you have a winning franchise.
Linemen yelling at your $260 million fuck up. Defensive lineman ready to take his head off. Oh my God!
You have a successful franchise when you have in-team fighting on the sideline in between plays. Like that screams success. But I don't get it. That thing is a complete disaster. I almost feel like the Walmart family just needs to burn it to the ground and start over. Like it was a complete collapse this year. And honestly, I don't know how they won as many games as they did because they looked horrible in every game they've ever played. Like it was a struggle to get through any game they've played. And like I said, I'd make it a point to not watch any of their games because they're freaking miserable to watch. But they were saying, and I wish I would have seen this, and I'm sure there's some videos on social media, but on the McAfee show, they were talking about the total dysfunction and the collapse of that franchise. And when they went to walk out onto the field, like when, they got introduced to whatever, like Russ was like 30 seconds or something ahead of everybody else. And like he turned around and nobody was following him. So he had to walk backwards. And then there was like a group in front of him and then him in the middle and then a group behind him. But like nobody went out together with him. It just looks,
perfect microcosm of the entire goddamn season.
It's just such a dysfunctional thing. And the thing is, I don't even know what to think about it because obviously it seems to speak volumes that he's the problem. Like this seems to be the case. But with that being said, if that is the case, what the hell happened in Seattle? Were they just more tolerant? Because they had a hell of a team almost every single year in Seattle. Like they were always winning. They might not make the playoffs, but they were always competitive in Seattle.
They're doing pretty damn well with Geno Smith right now.
Exactly. But I'm like, so then were those guys just tolerant of him then? And Denver's like, we're not going to take your crap? Like, I don't know. But it's a complete collapse. Like, this is a
How the hell they
dysfunctional
won 4
team.
games.
Yeah.
Well, one was against the Texans. I guess that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
One was against
Well,
the Niners and Trey Lance. That makes sense.
I'm curious to see what it's going to be like, at week 19. Like, it's going to be run out of the building like the building's on fire. Like, I feel like there's going to be a lot of guys who's on that bubble who may or may not get re-signed or franchise tagged. They're not coming back. Like, I feel like there's going to be a complete roster changeover, with the exception of Russ. I feel like it's going to be a whole new team because guys, it's obvious. It seems like guys don't want to play with him. So I'm curious to what that team's going to look like next year. I don't know. I feel bad for the Denver fans, and I'm glad I'm not one.
You know who I feel bad for? All those boys in Northeast Ohio in the 80s who grew up with that ass hat John Elway with his terrorizing of the Browns and all their fans. I don't shed a single tear for any Denver. You know what? I wish they'd have paid him $340 million a year.
Do you think that
GM, president, acting owner, head coach, so they can wallow in all of my misery from 30 years ago? To hell with them.
Do you think that when he goes home, he looks at a picture of Elway and he's like, "Oh, I'm so much better than him,"
or that to the Elway picture with his own tears?
I was going to say, or that they're equals; they're on the same tier.
God.
I would love to have a few Tito's, a few bourbons, whatever concoction you want with Elway, and get his honest opinions on Russ. Like, that would be interesting. I can imagine he's got his takes. I can imagine that.
I can't wait till playoffs actually start. I want to see those owners' boxes where Robert Kraft, the other asshole, Roger Goodell's sitting up there. I want to see him sit with Russell Wilson this year. I want to see how that friendship's coming along.
Yeah,
Roger Goodell won't even sit with you.
No, that'd be.
God.
I don't think that'll happen. That'll be an interesting one. Yeah, I don't see that happening. But we'll touch base here real quick on this last game, and then we'll touch base on some breaking news, and then get into the studs and duds. We'll wrap it up. But last game here, we got the Chargers and the Colts, which we kind of touched on earlier in the cheers of the week. But yeah, it turns out Foles isn't any better than Matt Ryan. Oh my God. I watched that game and I just kind of had it on in the background. I swear to God, every time I looked up, it was either an interception or like a 5-yard sack. And Nick Foles running for his life. And it's just like, oh my God, this looks like an NFL pro team versus a JV high school team. Like, this looks like such a and we were just talking about Denver and how dysfunctional they are. I don't even know what's going on with the Colts. Like, this looks like 53 guys that don't know what a football is. I've never seen. I don't get it. And the fact that you have so much talent on that team, you should be better. I don't know why they're not.
It's typically bad when your head coach doesn't make it through a full season. That's usually not.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of goes without saying. I mean, obviously the head coach gets canned for a reason, but still,
you have players.
You have at least. I'll give them a pass. And Denver has very little positive weapons. They have Jerry Jeudy and Sutton, maybe on the offensive side at least, and that's about it. Like, they don't have a whole lot of playmakers on the offensive side. Indy. I mean, come on, Indy. You got Michael Pittman. You have Jelani Woods.
Paris Campbell.
You have Paris Campbell.
Taylor.
You have Ashton Dolan. You have
you had Naheem Hines, who I don't understand why they got rid of him.
Yeah, I wasn't going to mention him, but what's the other kid?
Why not?
Pierce.
Yardage. Oh, he's better than the last three guys you fucking named.
Well, yeah. They got rid of him, so that's their fault. I'm saying who's currently on the roster. They had, Alex Pierce or whatever. And then you had Jonathan Taylor. Like, how are you not more productive on offense? Like, literally, you have the reigning potential runner-up MVP, whatever, in your backfield. A one-handed person could turn around and hand the ball off to the running back. You don't need to be a $250 million quarterback to turn around and hand the ball off. Why are we not doing that? And then they have the highest paid offensive line in the NFL, and yet they have to lead the league in sacks. Like, I mean, Christ, what? Nick Foles got sacked, 7 times last night? I mean, Jesus. I feel like every time Matt Ryan held the ball, 1 out of every 2 times it was either a pick or a fumble. I don't get it. I don't get it. And then you see, Nick Foles, everybody in Philly worshipped him like, oh, my God, he was the MVP of the Super Bowl. Holy shit, this guy played in the Super Bowl? I don't get it. That team is bad. It's hard to watch. They are very bad. And the fact that, obviously, it's not the same team because you've had some injuries, like we said, Jonathan Taylor. You were up 33-0, and you lost the game. I don't get it. I've never seen a collapse like that in a game. Never seen it. I don't even know if I've seen it in a high school game, let alone a pro game. I don't
think you'll ever see it. I hope not.
Well, if there's anybody that could manage that feat, I have faith that it would be Matt Ryan, because he just told everybody, hey, 28-3, you saw that right. Yeah, I'll one-up it. I can do better. I could blow a 33-point lead. Just watch. And the fact that he's not hurt, you got benched twice in the same season. Here's a question. I don't know what his salary is, but I never thought that they'd be able to unload Carson Wentz and his salary, and that was pretty substantial. So that's 2 screw-ups in a year, in a row. Do you think they're going to be able to unload Matt Ryan with somebody else and they got a new quarterback next year? Or do you think they're on the hook and he's going to be there again next year?
I don't know of anybody else who would even be interested in Matt Ryan.
I mean, granted, Washington, they paid a crap load of his contract to pick up Wentz, and Wentz has been on the bench for, at least half, if not a third of the season when he wasn't hurt, to Heineke, who they're paying, popcorn money to. So crazier things have happened, I guess, but I don't think the Colts are going to get lucky. I don't think the Colts are going to get that lucky to unload those contracts 2 times in a row.
I'd be amazed.
Remember the days years ago when Matt Ryan used to be like a prolific quarterback? Like, oh my God, this guy's actually like a top 5, top 10 quarterback. What happened?
Well, Jared, Roddy White and Julio Jones left town, and Tony Gonzalez retired.
Well, and I guess it doesn't help that you had Calvin Ridley. Was it Calvin Ridley? Betting on teams to win?
Yeah.
Your team?
Ridley's over there betting on his next team. Oh, man.
I'm sure that doesn't help.
Yeah, Plus, Matty Ice is not his cool nickname. Is Big Dick Nick. So, I mean, I would just ride out. I'd ride out Foles.
That or Big Cock Brock.
Big Cock Brock takes it all, baby. There was a reason that I picked him to win the Super Bowl this year before he even got there.
Well, we'll touch on one more thing here, and then we'll move to some of the breaking news. But did you see any of I don't know if you watched that game or you saw the highlights of the Chargers-Colts game.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you probably saw it by now if you didn't watch the game, the Derwin James hit. What do you think of that? What do you think of that?
I think it's football.
Do you think it was actually head-to-head? I don't think it was head-to-head.
No.
I think he led with his head, but he hit him in the shoulder pad.
It was shoulder.
Yeah, he hit him in the shoulder pad, and the shoulder pad, he just kind of got jarred, and it looked in full speed head-to-head. But then when you look at it,
but it looked like old-school football.
Yeah, but then when you look at it in slow-mo, it looks like he hits him head. He does lead with his head, but he hit him in the shoulder pad. And then it wasn't helmet. It basically jarred him. I don't think – I don't necessarily – I mean, we may be the minority here. But I don't think that warrants an ejection. And the fact that
people were saying because of on that same drive, two plays earlier,
where he ripped the helmet off. Yeah. And I get that. But the fact that they said he helmet to helmet, which when you go back and look, did he lead with the helmet? Yes. But was it helmet to helmet? No. So give him the 15-yard penalty for the helmet to helmet, or the leading with the helmet. But I don't see how you throw him out of the game because he didn't even hit him in the helmet, in my opinion. I didn't see it. But
it's because of that soft-ass mashed potato head fucking Tua, who just keeps getting concussed.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
They gotta save these guys. The league has to look like it cares about their players. But
true.
It's sad. It's not football. The game's so watered down and soft.
But what I don't understand is any other time they would have taken a few minutes, 5 minutes or something, to look at it. They would have got call from New York and, hey, look at the. I feel like on that hit was hard. They got helped off the field. They went to the blue tent. Flag was thrown, and then maybe 5-10 seconds later, it was targeting head to head, and he's ejected out of the game. Like it happened, bang, bang, bang. Like I felt like there was no review. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like any other time that needs to be looked at because you're throwing a guy out of the game who's an impact player. And if he didn't lead with his head, if it wasn't helmet to helmet, I don't see how that's grounds for ejection. But that's just me. I don't make the rules. I'm not the one throwing the flags, but I thought it was a little sketchy. But whatever.
I'm with you. I'm sad.
But we'll move on to some of the breaking news here. And we'll get to the Tua thing here, but Crosby, your guy Mason Crosby, number 2 in your program, number 1 in your hearts, right? He breaks the unexpected. People didn't think that record would ever be broken. He broke Brett Favre's Ironman streak of 255 games. He broke it, started 256, got the game winner. So he's now the all-time consecutive games played leader. That's pretty impressive. Granted, that guy's been around forever, but my God, I didn't think he was that close to breaking that record. I know he's been there for a while, but that's pretty impressive to stick around that long. And he's had some hell of a game winners, that's for sure, in his time. But that was pretty impressive. And of course, you saw a lot of memes and stuff going around on social media. Well, all Crosby did was kick game winners. He didn't steal from anybody. So that's neither here nor there. Just saying he broke the record.
One thing, Jared.
Your heart. Oh man. But we kind of touched on this. We'll move on to the dumpster that is Denver, and we'll kind of lead into the next point here. But obviously, by now, everybody's probably aware that Nathaniel Hackett's been fired after Russ decided he forgot how to throw the ball, and the Denver meltdown and collapse. And they got rid of the OC, I think, and they cleaned house a little bit, but I didn't realize this, and I saw it on social media. It might have been Schefter. I can't remember who. And then they mentioned it again, and it was either ESPN or McAfee, whatever. I know that coaches and OCs and stuff, the coordinators, their contracts are fully guaranteed. I did know that. I did not realize how much money is being paid right now to people not coaching. Did you hear this stat?
No, I was watching The Hangover 3 on repeat.
Well, that's about how much money Doug lost. They said as of right now, there is $800 million approximately being paid to coaches and coordinators who are no longer working for their teams. That is mind-boggling. That is crazy. And the fact that you're paying that much money out to guys who are no longer in their job, and these franchises are still making money. Like, that's nuts. That is crazy.
They'll get it back in the back end with Sunday Ticket here coming soon to YouTube TV.
Yeah. But it just blows me away that you can afford to just take 800 million out in the parking lot and just light it on fire and be like, nah, well, we tried. And then you just get like 1.2 billion the next week. And, it's like it never even happened. Like I heard that and I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy. Yeah. That dumbfounded me.
Was that number, was that dollars or was that token bit peso points?
I don't think it was peso points. I'll have to check my sources. Jamie, can you double check that?
Jamie's off actually gambling with using real money. And none of the doll hairs.
That explains it.
50% of the show uses in.
Yeah. Well, hey, we got what, 5 more days, 3 more days, whatever, till we go live here. So, but now that you brought it up, anybody that's listening here in Ohio, for all 3 of you, if you haven't already, FanDuel, DraftKings, pretty much any sort of Caesars, BetMGM, jump on, take advantage of it. They're still running promos. Everything goes live here on January 1st. So jump out there, get your credits, and drop some money on any team not named Denver or Indy, and you'll probably be happy. So there's our PSA. But
is that January 1st Eastern time or January 1st?
I mean,
Pacific?
we're in Ohio, so we're typically we go by Eastern over here. I don't think Ohio goes by Pacific time. Oh boy, we explore a lot of options here, that's for sure. But
every hole is our goal.
It's true. Yes, we'll touch base on the concussion issue with Tua here that we kind of already mentioned. Tua, for those that don't know, is back in the concussion protocol yet again this year. Talking about records broken, this was a lot of records broken this year. We had Justin Jefferson broke Randy Moss and Chris Carter's record. We had Mason Crosby breaking Brett Favre's record. Tua has to have a record set for the most time spent in the concussion protocol in one season. I feel like out of 16 weeks, he had to have spent 10 weeks in the protocol at this point. Like, does he have a sponge? Like, what is going on? Like, I mean, I'm not trying to sound mean, but I feel like maybe this guy should kind of hang it up for the year, because if your head's getting smacked around that much, you got scrambled eggs at this point. Maybe you need to take a few weeks off.
Yeah, he's definitely graduated off of hospice way too many times.
I mean, at this point, I don't know who their options are, for quarterback. I mean, I know they got Bridgewater, but they're still trying to lock up a potential playoff spot, so I don't know that they really want to bench him. But my God, this kid, I feel like every 3 weeks he's back in the concussion protocol. So that can't be good long term, but man, I don't know. I don't know what the future holds for him. That's for sure. And I don't even know. That's just this year. I don't even know what he had, in Alabama. I don't know what his history is.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't invest in NFTs, and I wouldn't put all my money behind Tua.
Yeah. Well, with that being said,
financial advice this week, kids.
Yeah, we don't endorse much around here, but I would say if you're going live January 1st in Ohio, and you're all these options to wager legal betting, I probably wouldn't put much money on the Dolphins and Tua after January 1st, and we'll just leave it at that. But we'll get to our last point here. J.J. Watt announcing he's calling it a career after the season here finishes up for Arizona, which, let's be honest, their season kind of finished up a while ago. But anyway, by statistical means, he's going to call it a career after Week 18. I don't know.
I loved his work in Bad Moms.
I can't say I've seen it, but I will say the game is obviously going to miss him. I mean, that guy, he sold out every play. I've seen this guy pretty much everything but rip his entire arm off his body, and he comes back in just weeks when it's supposed to be like a season-ending injury, and this guy jumps in Lake Superior or whatever freezing cold, and he's back in like 4 weeks. Like, he's just a freaking animal. He's a good dude. I mean, I think they said on ESPN he set the world record for most like crowdsourcing funds for Hurricane Harvey when he was down in Texas.
I remember that. Yeah.
I mean, he's just an all around good dude. But I know he's got a kid now, so he's got, you know, obviously other things on his plate to think about. But man, he's just an animal, and I feel bad because I hate to see him go out this way. Like, I felt like the peak of his career was at the very beginning with Houston, and then Houston just became the dumpster that it is, you know, with the Deshaun Watson dealing with that, and then they cut Hopkins, and then he requests, and he ends up in Arizona, and it's not exactly went the way that I think obviously no one's hoping for, but it sucks. I would have liked to see him get more playoff action, but regardless, he was a hell of a player.
I remember him. I remember when the Texans came to Cleveland and just seeing him on the sidelines pacing like a goddamn sociopath.
He's a fucking monster.
Dude, I mean, I have all the respect in the world for TJ Watt. Well, JJ Watt. TJ Watt. Don't drink Metamucil this late at night, kids.
But yeah, I do have to say he's just a freak. Like, seeing him, like I said, recover from injuries and coming back in record time is just unbelievable. But the fact that he reminds me of a younger Reggie White. Like, he just couldn't be stopped. He would double team and he'd run right over him. He'd split him and still make the tackle. I mean, and they were showing highlights, you know, of him this week, today. And I didn't realize he played tight end back in high school, and Houston was lining him up at tight end, and, you know, a couple different spots. Unfortunately, it was one against you guys, but I didn't realize he played that many different positions where he got the ball. I've always seen him on defense ripping quarterbacks in half.
I do remember him catching touchdown passes or 2-point conversions and everything.
Yeah,
I do remember that.
But I mean, when he was in Houston and he would recover a fumble for a 6 or something like that, that place would just go nuts. Like, he owned Houston for the longest time. Like, that was his palace. It's just a shame that they suck so bad every year. But I don't know.
You weren't tugging any heartstrings. Joe Thomas retiring when he was sitting on those winless teams and 1-win teams.
Well,
another Hall of Famer. You're a real bastard, Jared. You're a glass half full.
Well, and here's the thing too. It sucks for those guys. I mean, at least J.J. Watt got to the playoffs. At least, once, maybe twice? I mean, they got steamrolled, but at least he got to the playoffs. I don't think Thomas ever even saw the playoffs, did he? Did he even see a winning season?
No.
Was he there with the DA?
No, he was there with
Anderson.
He was there that year when they went it
was like 10-6 or something.
Like 10-7 or something.
Well, that's why.
10-6.
Well, that's the thing. Like, anybody, whether it's, receivers, linemen, whatever, you almost kind of feel bad when these guys get into the Hall of Fame because themselves, their individual achievements are just so ridiculous. But they just got, like, Barry Sanders is another example. Phenomenal player, record player on a shit team. Yeah. Like, you put Barry on Dallas in the 90s. Holy shit. Can you imagine how many rings he would have? Like, unreal. But yeah, it's just unfortunately the luck of the draw. Some of these guys get screwed. I mean, was it you talk about Joe Thomas? Did he have the record for most games played? Didn't he have something like that? Some sort of record for Cleveland?
He did.
Most games started or something.
Consecutive starts.
And the guy had probably 50 wins his entire career. Like, that's just rough. Like, to be able to go out there every week, obviously not hoping you're going to lose, but then coming back into the locker room, like, well, we lost again. And you go back out and suit back up again, hoping and putting your best foot forward, and then the team around you just isn't that good, and you lose again. Like, that almost obviously is more taxing than going out there on a winning team and having the expectation to win. Like, knowing you're on a bad team, like, that takes a lot. But he'll get in. If he doesn't get in, that's a crime.
He will, for sure. 3-time defensive MVP.
Well, I was talking about Thomas too.
Oh, him too. Yeah, over 10,363 consecutive snaps.
Yeah,
the NFL's first offensive lineman. Remember when they had that graphic on the TV? Holy Christ, they blew that up.
Yeah.
The NFL's first lineman.
But we'll end here with fantasy studs and duds. I did like the poll, the fantasy duds, which actually we were great minds think alike. Hashtag consistency here. We were kind of talking about it offline. The fantasy duds could be Denver, just Denver in general.
Anything Denver.
Yeah, but
former
the poll,
things that spent most of the season in Denver that are no longer in Denver.
Yeah, you probably could have
can't be erased from Denver's record books.
And if it wasn't Denver, you probably could have sprinkled in some Indy in there as well, and it would have been relevant. Oh. But yeah. So the poll is Week 16 fantasy real life dud goes to Denver Broncos defense, the former head coach, the GM, or just any Bronco individual in general in Denver.
Any Bronco in Denver. I don't care if you got OJ's white Bronco laying around there somewhere. That's the Bronco I'd want.
I voted and just put any Bronco in Denver because let's be honest, when you get blasted, 51-14, there's not a whole lot of positive to hang your hat on, and that's just that week. But overall, the season's been a complete dumpster. Like, there's nothing positive coming out of Denver. So, yeah, it's disgusting. The whole thing is a collapse.
Cam Akers looked
like a Hall of Famer.
The second coming of Walter Payton against that defense. Cam Akers, the guy who was like healthy scratches for the past 2 seasons.
He was
Baker
potentially
Mayfield.
Cam Akers was potentially on the trade block 4 or 5 weeks ago.
Oh yeah,
and Baker Mayfield's been in town for 2.5 weeks, and you made them look like the 95 or the 92 Cowboys.
Yeah,
come on. Oh man,
it's like watching Steve Young and Roger Craig out there. I don't understand. God, that Broncos should be just ashamed of themselves.
I'm ashamed of myself for starting them because I was under the impression that they were good. And I figured that, hey, you got the LA Rams who have 6'2" Baker. You have Cam Akers in the backfield, and then you have no Cooper Kupp. You have no Skoranek. All right, yeah, I feel pretty good about that matchup. Good God, I couldn't have been more wrong. I should have started the Miami Tua Dolphins and, get 1 point per head bounced off the turf. I still got 4 points from Miami's defense, but I don't know. That was embarrassing. That's for sure.
That was god awful. That was taken behind the tool shed or the gymnasium or wherever Biden does his beatings.
But yeah. With the studs, with that same game, obviously, had our certain individual buddy started Cam Akers, he could have easily been the stud of the week. But
he'd have gotten it, man. He outscored everybody.
Instead, he rode the bench, so that didn't help. But
Dak Prescott also had a solid performance this week.
Yeah, I didn't appreciate that one personally, but hey, that's neither here nor there.
He had the points. CeeDee Lamb, Kittle.
Yeah.
Kittle had a huge game.
I'll tell you who didn't get points and could be a dud in my eyes is anybody from Detroit. More specifically, Jamal Williams. But, whatever. But, well, I don't have anything else. You got anything?
No, I just the top 1 or 2 picks in fantasy next year. I got that in my pocket. I got a top 2 pick in my pocket.
Yeah, well, good luck with that. I'm probably looking at 4 here because, let's be honest, my team's just as consistent as they were week 1. So, hey, your top 4 pick, I guess. But
it's all right. You'll be riding Dalvin Cook into the ground.
Yeah, we'll see. He'll probably have the biggest game of the season here. But
it'll be yours next year, partner. We'll get you a purple number 4.
I won't be I won't be touching that for multiple reasons.
I'll get you an interchangeable nameplate so you can have Favre on the back just in case you're feeling nostalgic.
Nah, I can't be taken from the welfare.
It's a donation from the University of Southern Miss volleyball team.
It's true. Speaking of that, and we'll end on this. Did you see that that Devonta Smith celebration? I didn't understand that one.
Oh, something shuffling money out of the.
He was pulling money out of the. He looked like he was putting a ski mask on and then taking money out of the kettle. And everybody on social media was like, "Oh man, he's trying to do a Brett Favre."
Oh my god!
It was only funny because it's kind of true. But I'm like, "What are you doing, man? That's not a good look."
That's fantastic.
Yeah, but I think that'll wrap up another episode here on the Fifth Quarter Sportscast. Download, rate, subscribe, review. You want to interact with us, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all that good stuff. You can hit us up at 5THQ Sportscast. Until then, go watch some football. We'll catch you back here next episode and break down some Week 17 action. And, we'll see how the games go. Until then, we'll see you next week.
Be a hero. Be a real hero. Be a Northern Diner.